don't really care for horror movie franchises, but there is something different about the Quiet Place universe that I think just works so well. Hey strangers, my name is Kayla, and if it's your first time seeing my face, this is my space to talk about all things horror, books, movies, I don't know, some other stuff maybe not. Today, I just wanted to give you my quick review of A Quiet Place Day 1. So recently I reviewed The Watchers, which is one of the first movies I've seen in theaters in a really long time. And for A Quiet Place Day 1, I was looking forward to this movie a little bit more. And so I took myself on a little solo date to go see it. And I was not disappointed at all, especially after the disappointment that was The Watchers. And you can catch my review of that on the channel. It was really refreshing to watch a movie that I actually genuinely enjoyed seeing. So to give you the abridged version, and there will be spoilers in this review, this movie features Lupita Nyong'o playing the character of Samira, who is a terminally ill woman living at a hospice care facility just outside of New York City. And as part of, she's very obstinate and I don't really care what happens to me because I'm literally dying, which I can't blame the woman, right? But she gets kind of tricked into going with the group of residents to go see this puppet show in New York City with the promise that she will go get pizza up in Harlem when they are done with the puppet show on their way back. She also has a cat named Frodo, who she has throughout the film. He makes it to the end. Nothing happens to Frodo. He's okay. I know why horror movie writers and directors add animals into their films. It ups the ante a little bit, especially if we develop a relationship with them. But it really stressed me out. I was so worried about Frodo, especially as a cat owner, especially as the owner of cats who do not shut up. I mean, they're quiet right now, but they tend to get pretty loud, especially when they want something from me. If you have a cat, you know what I mean. I was really nervous that Frodo was going to meow and give away his location and something was going to happen to him, but he was a very quiet cat. He was a very good cat. Anyways, let me not get too caught up on the cats. The crazy cat lady is going off again. So Alex Wolff plays Ruben, the nurse who brings the group down into the city, works in the hospice care facility. And Ruben tells Samira, hey, something's going on in the city. There's this emergency happening and we have to leave. Unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to get your pizza. And Samira's like, fuck you, I want my pizza. I'm going to just sit on the bus until everyone's ready to leave. And while she's sitting on the bus, the disaster strikes and everybody sees these meteors falling from the sky. And suddenly, literally the scene blows up. And now the first thing that was going through my mind as I was watching this happen, especially because there's this scene of Samira walking through the dust created by the explosion, is if you were in New York on, can I even say it on YouTube, that fateful day in 2001, you should probably not watch this movie because that was extremely reminiscent of that day, that time, what it probably looked like at that location. Just saying, because I've worked with people who are survivors of that, I can't imagine watching something like that. But not that I think there were any sinister intentions or anything like that behind adding this part to a movie. I mean, how else are you supposed to walk a character through a post-explosion? That's what it looks like. So anyways, the group of survivors gets pulled back into the puppet theater and they slowly begin to realize why it's important that they stay quiet, and they really struggle to do that. Right? It's this huge group of people. Somebody's gonna say something eventually, and it does happen here and there. If you've seen A Quiet Place 1 and 2, you know that they've got to throw those scenes in there to kind of up the tension and create this emotional experience. So at a certain point, Samira, again, is like, fuck it, I'm getting my pizza. And so as she starts heading uptown so that she can get to Harlem to get her pizza. And along the way, she meets Eric, who is played by Joseph Quinn. And of course, I love Joseph Quinn because I watch Stranger Things and I have eyes. And he accompanies her through her journey in trying to get back to this place, not as a woman who is a victim of the current circumstances, but as a dying woman wanting to finally reconnect with this place that she called home for so long. At first, I had the thought that maybe Eric was a hallucination, but he's not. There were too many scenes where there was like a tangible experiences that he was having. You know, he was holding the cat, he was grabbing supplies that they used later on, so on and so forth. So essentially what we see in the movie is Eric and Samira making their way uptown. Meanwhile, everybody else has gone downtown because they are evacuating people via South Street Seaport, which is almost the southernmost tip of Manhattan, as you can imagine. The bridges have been blown up so that the monsters can't get out of the city, and we find out that the monsters also can't go in the water. So there are a few scenes where our two main characters are in the water, under the water. The cat goes under the water for long periods of time and somehow makes it out okay, which that was the least believable part of it. The aliens, I can believe it. The cat going underwater and making it out, I couldn't believe that, but whatever. Samira's condition starts to deteriorate because, as you can imagine, if you've ever had a loved one on hospice, there's a lot of medication that goes into keeping a person comfortable in the last few days, weeks, months of their lives as a terminal illness is taking over. So there's a scene where Eric ventures out to a pharmacy to get her the pain medication patches that she needs so that she can kind of make it the rest of the way on the journey. So finally, Sam and Eric do make it up to the jazz club where Sam's father used to play piano when she was a kid. They find out that the pizza joint that her dad used to take her to after he played at the club, Patsy's, has been burned down. But Eric goes out and he gets her pizza anyway, and they kind of have this little moment in the jazz club. And it's not romantic, right? It's nothing like that, but they are just kind of having this, again, this moment of, they're kind of having just like this moment of levity among all the chaos that's really kind of refreshing, a nice part of the movie, right? And we get to know the characters a little bit more in depth and what they're like. So they leave the jazz club and they see one of the boats with, I guess, what we can call refugees going up the river. And we can tell that Sam has made a decision that she's going to stay behind and she's going to make sure that Eric makes it out because she's a dying woman and she doesn't really give a shit anymore again. But, you know, one last nice thing that she can do for this guy who accompanied her, which was a nice thing to do. So they get very close to the shores of the river and Sam tells him to run with the cat. He's with Frodo. And Sam tells him to run and she starts setting off all of these car alarms by smashing the windows in with a tire iron, attracting the monsters towards her and away from him. He trips over a can or something like that and makes his presence known. They start to come after him, but right before they can get him, he jumps into the river, swims to safety towards the boat. The last scene that we see in the movie is Sam walking down the street with her headphones in, listening to a stereo that's playing Feeling Good by Nina Simone. And she pulls the wire out of the headphone jack, so it's playing everywhere, and we see a monster behind her, and that's the end. I love these movies so much. I think that the world building is so well done, and it's just minimal enough that you know that something's going on, you know it's happening all over the world, you know the world has ended, but you don't know exactly what's happened. And even in this movie, A Quiet Place Day 1, where we literally see the first day of the alien invasion, we're not even 100% sure what's going on. Like, the meteors are crashing down towards Earth, but where did they come from? What are these monsters? What do they want? Like, we know that they hunt based on sound and they're blind otherwise, but mystery. It is a great concept for a horror film, because one of the most important aspects of the cinematic experience is sound. And so you have these moments where your characters have to be very quiet. And even after like leaving the movie theater, I was like hearing noises of like, don't make any sounds. Don't make any sounds. Like a little, you know, it increases the tension so much. And it's something that's frequently used in horror. If you'll notice, if you pay attention to the music or the sound effects, it will either get really soft or the music will stop completely. And that is your cue that something is going to happen, right? Because it builds that tension. You're just kind of like on the edge of your seat expecting something. Or the music has, or the sound has lulled you into this false sense of confidence where you feel like everything is okay. And just in general, it is hard to move through the world and not make any sound. It's basically impossible. Right? You have to be very careful. And as we see in the first two movies, this family has adapted to these circumstances brilliantly. I mean, they've built a whole entire compound that is specifically ensures that they don't make sounds or that the sounds are muffled. I mean, Emily Blunt's character literally gives birth in one of the movies. I mean, how do you do that without making noise? How do you have a baby, a newborn baby, and make sure that it doesn't give away your location? Like, that is insane. The other thing that I really like about these movies is that there's so much emotion and heart in them. It feels to me like these films they started with the concept of something happening to a group of people, right? So A Quiet Place Part 1 and 2 is about this family. It is a story about a family trying to exist in a very tense, chaotic, frightening, traumatic environment and how they make it through together. A Quiet Place Day 1 is two humans having connection. And it's more than just the two of them, right? Because there are scenes where humans they're just helping each other. People help each other, right? There's that famous Mr. Rogers quote that says, you know, my mom told me that when something bad is happening, look for the helpers. There will always be helpers. And I think that that's the human part that these movies try to convey. Because Sam and Eric, like I said before, there's no like sexual tension between them. There's no romantic feelings towards either of them. They just connect, and they're in this desperate situation and they help each other through it. And Eric helps Sam in her final days achieve what she needs to, find home, connect with her dad again, so that she can die happy. And in turn, Sam makes sure that he lives and he has a chance despite everything that's going on around them. So yeah, I almost cried at the end of this movie. It was just very touching. It was a very touching story in the middle of all of the horrifying things that were happening. And I think that's, for me anyways, part of what makes a horror movie really good is that you have a really genuine story that just happens to take place in a scary environment or world, right? I think Ari Aster said that he starts with an idea, and a lot of times for him, what it takes to tell that story or expand on that idea happens to lead him into the horror genre. So it kind of takes on a mind of its own, or like it makes the most sense to tell it through horror. And to me, that's how you make a good movie, right? You focus on these really important plot points and characters and connections and world building and all of that great stuff that just makes a good story. And then you're just like, boom, and there's aliens. Boom, there's a serial killer. Like, make the stakes very high, right? So anyways, that's my review for A Quiet Place Day 1. I would give it like a 7 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. I think definitely go see it. You know, if I haven't already spoiled it for you, I still think you should go to see it, because even my summary is not going to live up to the experience of that, like, tension and, I don't know. I just find the franchise and the concept really interesting. Maybe it's because I like sci-fi as well. I also really liked the Cloverfield universe. I found that really fun and interesting. But let me know what you think. If you saw it already, let me know if you're going to go see it, and I haven't ruined it for you. But anyways, that's it, strangers. So I will see you in the next one.